Today we continue to inform you about the situation on the front line of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, write some comments and subscribe channel to show your support for the Ukrainian people who are fighting for their future and for their freedom. This morning Ukraine regains control of so-called Boyko Towers in the Black Sea. Boyko Towers are gas and oil drilling platforms. Russia occupied them in 2015 and used them for military purposes since the beginning of the full-scale invasion. During the operation, Ukrainian special forces managed to capture valuable trophies, a stockpile of helicopter munitions like unguided emergency missiles and Neva radar, which can track the movement of ships in the Black Sea. At the same time, Russian invaders are reinforcing previously built defenses and preparing new line of defense. Due to successful advance of the Ukrainian armed forces in south directions, the Russians have begun to actively fortify themselves. New satellite images show trenches 10 kilometers from the current contact line. Also, the Russian invaders want to mobilize from 400 to 700,000 people in Russia and the occupied territories. As a barrier units, 40,000 people will be mobilized from Chechnya. In Moscow and St. Petersburg, the volume of mobilization is expected to be minimal, just like last year. And this is how HIMARS of the Ukrainian armed forces destroys two Russian BM-21 Great Multiply launch rocket systems in Donetsk area. The Ukrainian army continued to destroy ammunition depots of the armed forces of Russia. By the way, ammunition and fuel depots are among the main targets for every artillery unit. Without ammunition and shells, soldiers and guns cannot fire. Without fuel, the equipment stands still, does not perform combat missions, and it's easy to destroy. This video shows such destruction of ammunition and fuel depot in Soledar in Donetsk area. In Vasilievka area, Ukrainian soldiers of the 128th Separate Mining and Assault Brigade used Russian tactics. They stuffed a trophy tank with explosive and launched it at Russian positions. The Russian occupants are preparing a second wave of offensive in the Kupyansk area. They bring in more artillery there. The predominant tactic of the Russians is quantity. The Russians gathered a 30,000 strong group of ultras fans. However, after a few weeks of participation in the fighting, they began to cry out to be taken away. They concentrated a huge group. They made an improvised hub out of Lugansk region, from where they sent military units to different parts of the front line. It is about 100,000 personnel, more than 1,000 pieces of equipment, according to some sources up to 2,000 pieces. The Ukrainian armed forces managed to stop this offensive and gain a foothold. And this is terrible footage how Russians artillery covered their positions when the Ukrainian 30th Brigade was on the offensive. When its fighters approached the Russian enemy, the enemy noticed this and reported to the main communication center. At that moment, Ukrainian soldiers almost reached the Russian fortifications, and then Russian artillery started firing at their positions. Of course, the Ukrainian soldiers stopped to wait out the shelling, but it was so intense and long that they waited for almost 2 hours. Then Ukrainians able to intercept Russian conversations and realized that the Russian main communication hub could not hear the advanced units because the electronic warfare was suppressing communication, and the Russians couldn't adjust their fire and thus hid their positions for 2 hours. Thanks to this, Ukrainian army managed to recapture the left part of the forest and the road.
Я Рэмбо подтверждаю, по нам, блядь! Да по нашим бьют! По нашим попадают, гранит, отставить огонь, я Рэмбо! Я ретранслятор! Гранит, уничтожил, блядь! Все уничтожил, часть передка, блядь! Не работает, никто не слышит, блядь! Делаю все, что могу. У нас никого не осталось, блядь! Гранит, отставить огонь! Я приеду, всех перестреляю, блядь!
Dorbush Hornets of the 68th Separate Ranger Brigade hit Russian anti-tank mine depot with a single grenade, which provoked a powerful detonation. A Russian combat vehicle was also caught in the blast radius. This is how Ukraine continues to fight for its future and for its freedom. Please do not stand aside. Support Ukraine. Like this video, write some comments and subscribe this channel.